educational context, whether distance education or the traditional classroom setting, promoting critical thinking skills in students has always been a goal. As students progress through their educational experience, they often become more aware of their experience as a whole. Research in the critical thinking field has shown that college-age students have become disappointed and frustrated with their traditional lecture-based instruction that they have been receiving. Not only are educational leaders pushing for critical thinking, but students are yearning for instruction that is engaging and promotes critical thinking. As important as critical thinking skills are to education, studies show that the vast majority of university faculty, 77% as a matter of fact, have limited understanding of the meaning of critical thinking or how to foster critical thinking among their students. So what is critical thinking?
What is critical thinking? That's a great question, and I'm glad you asked. It's obvious that we think all the time, but how often do we think about how we think? Let's take a close look at critical thinking. To be honest, there are many definitions of critical thinking. You can search and find dozens and dozens, each a bit different, but they all seem to boil down to what Dr. Richard Paul once said: critical thinking is the art of analyzing and evaluating thinking with a view to improving it.
Unfortunately, a universal definition does not exist. In its most simplistic definition, critical thinking is a disciplined approach or analysis and evaluation of any piece of information. In a more detailed definition, critical thinking is the mental process of actively and skillfully conceptualizing, applying, analyzing, synthesizing, and evaluating information to reach an answer or a conclusion. Based on the definition of critical thinking, distance education courses are the prime setting to promote critical thinking amongst its participants. While traditional classrooms should also strive to promote these skills, the very nature of distance courses are set up for the participants to engage in information in a way that exemplifies the qualities of critical thinking. While the composition of the online course is right for promoting critical thinking, there is more to the process. In fact, there are three major components to ensure that online instruction is engaging and produces opportunities for critical thinking. The community of inquiry model states that there must be a convergence of the expertise of the instructor, the social interaction of the students, and critical thinking. The community of inquiry model calls these the instructor presence, the social presence, and the cognitive presence. It refers to the knowledge and expertise of the instructor and how he or she designs and facilitates online activities. First and foremost, the instructor must use constructivist philosophies by presenting opportunities for in-depth interactions with course materials. This creates a base knowledge for which the participant will use in the critical thinking process. However, the role of the instructor is not limited to providing participants with information and expecting them to automatically develop these skills. According to Omerchu and Murhead, the instructor must create an atmosphere where students are meaningfully motivated. This is where the instructor presence converges with social presence to create these opportunities to foster discussion and dialogue to delve deeper into the meaning and validity of information. Some examples of tools and best practices used to promote such analysis and social interaction include discussion forums, small learning communities, and reflective activities. Even the questioning used by the instructor can be an instrumental way to increase dialogue. Brent Murhead was published by the U.S. Distance Learning Association as recommending questions that do certain things. For example, questions that prove "so what?", questions that clarify meaning, questions that explore assumptions, questions that seek to identify cause-and-effect relationships, and questions that consider appropriate actions. Other than questioning techniques, there are various ways to encourage critical thinking skills. As previously mentioned, discussion forums, small learning communities, and reflective activities all promote critical thinking amongst its participants. Especially in the category of reflective activities, there are multiple best practices that could be employed in the online setting. For example, Blogs and wikis allow for students to produce information on a certain topic in a reflective manner. These can be used in a free writing reflection or in a response to a particular question. Also, podcasts allow for students to make information and publish their findings in audio or video form. Regardless of the technology being used, these activities promote critical thinking skills in the person as an individual, but they also create the scenario where other students can interact with the information and with other students. As previously mentioned, it is important to have the convergence of three important factors to learning: instructor presence, social presence, and cognitive presence. In the best practices I just mentioned, all three converge to create an environment that will foster critical thinking skills and promote higher learning. As we continue to explore critical thinking skills and their relevance and importance, keep in mind that they are the byproduct of careful planning and course design. While you've been introduced to the main concept and best practices of promoting critical thinking skills, I would like to turn our program over to our keynote speaker, as he will take the concept of critical thinking in the distance education setting and discuss its full potential and full implementation into the online setting.